Just hours to the Guber polls in 3 states in Nigeria, Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa state. There's a bit of anxiety as to the security situation in the areas, particularly from precedents and recent unfolding of events. There's more information for you in this intro package. Take a listen.
Ahead of the off-cycle elections in Imo, Bayelsa and Kogi states, Nigerians find themselves on the brink of a critical decision-making moment. Beyond the usual vibes of electoral processes, these states are grappling with heightened security concerns, which has injected a dose of tension into the political landscape. The impending elections cast a spotlight on the complex issue of elections in Nigeria. Beyond the scheduled national elections, states occasionally find themselves thrust into electoral processes due to various reasons, often tied to political dynamics, legal issues, or unforeseen circumstances. This situation sparks debate on the efficiency and fairness of elections, raising questions about their impact on governance and democratic stability. Security, a persistent concern in Nigerian elections, takes center stage in this off-cycle scenario. With the Inspector General of Police, Olukayode Egbetokun, issuing directives for robust security measures, including the deployment of water cannons, armored personnel carriers, helmets, bulletproof vests, and tear gas canisters, the electoral atmosphere is charged with anticipation and caution. Obo Afanga, the resident electoral commissioner in Bayelsa, underscores the strategic planning of security agencies to safeguard the integrity of the electoral process. As voters prepare to exercise their civic duty, the nation stands at a crossroad, balancing the democratic right to choose leaders with the imperative of maintaining peace and security. This election is holding against a backdrop of nuanced challenges, making it a crucial chapter in Nigeria's democratic journey.
And of course, to shed more light on this, I have with me on the program today Lawrence Alobi, a retired former Commissioner of Police, Abuja, and of course, Chidi Omeje, security expert also from Abuja. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
All right, interesting times, you would say, in Nigeria, particularly from, what I call it, some of the states that have or that have witnessed over the years political drama, talking about Imo, Kogi, and of course Bayelsa state. Now let's of course get the ground running and shed more bit into the background. Now over, or will I say in recent times, there has been talks concerning security concerns in the state. My first question goes to you, Lawrence. How exactly does security work, particularly during times like this, elections, particularly when it comes to deployment of soldiers and also redeployment of the existing security architecture for the sake of the elections at this particular point in time?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. What did you say? I didn't get that.
Okay, what I'm asking is, how exactly does it work during election periods when it comes to security, particularly on the angle of the police, in terms of redeployment and also deployment of security personnel?
Yeah, thank you very much. Security is a driver of people development, a driver of democracy, a driver of election. So security is key and central to the election to ensure credible activity elections. And Section 14B of the Constitution provides that branch rules of government is security and the welfare of the people. Through elections, citizens elect their leaders. And the primary objective of governance is to provide the welfare and well-being of the citizens, like Section 14 provides. So therefore, the government has a function, a role to play. And that's why the government now established various security agencies. For election, the police is the lead agency. And as a lead agency, it has to be strategic and proactive in its planning. And so before now, the IG has mapped out strategic programs, plans, carrying out training programs for police officers and men, and also interfacing with other security agencies and even INEC itself. They have been consulting together and collaborating together to ensure that the end into election will be hitch-free, to be violent-free, and this requires a collective effort of all security agencies, and because the government itself has a duty, as mentioned Section 40B of the Constitution, and INEC itself has a duty. The police has a duty, all security agencies have a duty, and the citizens themselves have a duty. Section 24E of the Constitution provides that every Nigerian citizen has a constitutional duty to assist security agencies in maintaining law and order. So it's also the responsibility of citizens to ensure that elections are conducted peacefully. They go to a police station and vote peacefully. Even the politicians themselves, they have a duty. But unfortunately, some unscrupulous politicians will instigate violence, would hire thugs, would arm some of these thugs to give them drugs, all aimed at causing mayhem when they're not sure of winning an election. It's rather that if they cannot win, then they mind the election. But security agencies are very, very conscious of this fact. The police is very conscious of this fact. And like I said earlier, the police and other security agencies have been consulting together, interacting together, and they will come out with strategies and plans that will guarantee a peaceful election. I know there are a lot of threats all over in Kogi, in Imo, and Bayelsa, but the police and security agencies are already having collected intelligence on all these threats, and they have mapped out strategies with a view to checkmate such threat will be threats and violence. So, but then the important thing is that all citizens of each of these states should know that they have a duty as citizens of that state. The government that will be elected is their government, and they want to benefit from the dividends of democracy. If they elect credible leaders who have a passion for good governance, for a passion for the well-being of the citizens. So therefore incumbent of the citizens, and they love the political parties themselves. They should learn to play by the rule of the game. And if the political parties know that they are there to serve the people, they should not cause to begin to recruit young youth who cause violence or instigate violence. They should ensure that they should allow the citizens to vote for each one of them. And when they vote, the election is declared, the result is declared, and it is found to be credible and transparent. You should accept the result with that. If you don't want it, go to court. That's
all right, Lawrence.
If you don't like, go to court.
All right, I will come back. I'll come back to you, Lawrence. I will come back to you, but let's go to, of course, Chidi right now. Chidi, you are a security expert yourself. Let's pick these states individually, and of course, will I say measure the security temperature in this particular states. Now, in your own opinion, how would you gauge the security situation currently in Kogi State and Imo State particularly? And also just this evening, there were some reports coming in from Bayelsa too concerning the redeployment or the request to redeploy the CP, but we'll get to that. But from your own assessment, how would you measure the security temperature at this time in these states?
Okay, thanks for the opportunity to share my thoughts. Look, I tell you something now. There's a reason why we have police force in this country, and there's a reason why police is the lead agency in election security. So this particular off-cycle election is more like a test case for Nigerians to actually assess the capability, the efficiency, the integrity of Nigerian police. Because we all saw what happened in the general elections, where you saw they displayed all manner of incompetence, all manner of partisanship, and of course, of professionalism. So I believe that this off-cycle election, where you just have about three states, the police should be able to be on top of the game. Now, back to your question. Yes, incidentally, these three states that were having this election happen to be states where you always have election violence, as a character. Imo State, for instance, you see, it's always been a tug of war each time there are elections there. It's only like do or die affair in Imo State. And the antecedents of the current governor there does not give confidence for peace and security. He's a man people have come to see as a guy who is a little bit desperate in terms of his political aspirations. Then the same thing applies to the incumbent governor of Kogi State. We all know his antecedents in terms of provoking security issues. Just a couple of weeks back, we read where he had where his convoy had issues with the military guys manning the highway. So I'm saying that look, that these states where we are talking about, these states that we're having elections are actually hotspots for election violence. So I expect the Nigerian police, particularly because they are the lead agency in election security, I expect them to be on top of the games. I expect them to be neutral. I expect them to be professional. I expect them to be above board this time around. And I expect them also to evolve a level of synergy, with other security agencies, with the DSS, good enough, the military availing themselves to be part of the security. So they should be able to cooperate with other security agencies to give us a semblance of peace, a free and peaceful election in those states. So if these three elections, like I said before, is going to be a time for us to assess this police force. This current IG has shown some level of, when time is on his part, we have seen some level of professionalism, especially when he was able to listen to the cries in Imo State and change the commissioner, the partisan commissioner. Now, well, this is going to be another opportunity for him to prove to Nigerians that indeed he's competent, that indeed he's professional, that indeed he's going to be non-partisan. So I'm not going to agree with.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you said you were not going to agree with.
I was not going to agree entirely with what Mr. Alobi was saying, because he's trying to shift the responsibility to the people. The police are made for this kind of situation, to guide the people, to protect the people from, because we're bound to have guys who want to break the law. So it is the responsibility of the police to ensure that the elections will go free, fair, and transparent. So the police, as the lead agency in the election security, must be on top of the game. This is not the question of the people. People yes, they will cooperate, but the police must take the lead in terms of securing the elections. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right. I mean, I think we should get Mr. Lawrence, Mr. Alobi's response to this particular, of course, assertion that you've made. But I want to add to it. I want to go to you now, Mr. Alobi. Now, during elections like this, the police, have been perceived by some as being, politically biased, and some even would use the word quite unprofessional. Now, I want to ask you, right, in addition to your reaction to some of the things, of course, Chidi has said, is the police truly, is the police truly neutral during times like this?
If you recall, the police are trained to be neutral, to be apolitical. And we have what they call rules of engagement and code of conduct in elections. In each operational election like this, others are what they call operational that are being drawn, and the rules of engagement are all articulated for the compliance of all officers and men. And let me continue before I go on with that question. Let me respond to what my co-discussant is saying, that everything is the police. The police election is for election. It doesn't only involve the police. Laws are made. In many modern society, there are laws, and these laws and the value of law to man is predicated in those laws to be enforced. If we comply with the laws, if we comply with the electoral act, electoral acts, and our various laws, extant laws, criminal code, and so forth, if all the citizens, the politicians, the INEC, the voters comply with the law, there'll be no breach, there'll be no violence. If they conduct themselves peacefully and vote, we don't need for police even to come and say they want to arrest anybody. You see, so it is, for me, I think it is absurd to say it's only the police. The police is there to carry out a function, to ensure that law and order is maintained and granted at the police stations. Even around the police stations, enforcement of sit-at-home orders, and ensure that law and order is being maintained at all the police stations, and ensure security is granted in the whole state. But the law, the students themselves have had obligation to obey the law. You know, if you look at Rossiu in his theory of social contract, the contract between the people and the government is that the citizens have a role to play. They have to forgo some of their rights by obeying the law. And they said the government has a duty to enforce the law. The police is there to enforce the law. If you don't break the law, there's nobody who come to enforce the law. So the law, if we develop the culture of obedience to the law, like Mr. President always said that, let us change our attitude. If we change attitude towards elections, election is not do or die affair. They should not cause for violence. The police and security agencies are there to work to ensure, provide enabling environment where the electorate can come and vote without any fear of threat or intimidation. And the INEC officers should do their job in line with the lay down rules and procedures. And the politicians should also come and should be patriotic citizens. They should be patriotic citizens who are there to lead, to demonstrate leadership by example, by being peaceful, by not cutting corners.
I mean, we are all aware of these laws, but there are cases where, at the end of the day, it still appears like the security agencies are an appendage to politicians. And of course, that brings up the issue of trust. Hence, this kind of conversations. So what exactly is the missing link here? What don't we know?
You see, perception determines attitude. I know over time, when people don't want the law to be enforced, they begin to bring about perception. They bring about they begin to generate unnecessary suspicion and prejudice. The police is there to ensure that law and order is maintained. The police is there for everybody, for all the political parties, and ensure that every citizen, every electorate who comes to vote is protected, and the electoral materials are protected. The environment is peaceful and conducive for people to cast their vote without fear of intimidation. It is just that negative perception. All along, if you look at our political history, from the colonial era to military era, citizens see the police as agent of government. But then, the government is our government. We have to ensure that we have a stable democratic government. We have to ensure that we have a safe and secure Nigerian society for the people to go about their business without intimidation. So just negative perception. When people carry out propaganda against the police, against any sort of agency.
So for you, it's all about it's all perception and propaganda. Anyway,
when they lose election, people when they lose election, they blame the police. They are the one who caused mayhem. Is it the police that procured the youth who go and cause mayhem? Is it the police that procured the talks? It's not the police. So we should not just shift the blame to the police. Security, whose interest? The citizens are the prime beneficiary of a safe and credible election. The citizens, and that is why. If the citizens are patriotic, they love their state. They want to have a government that bring about dividends of democracy. A government that is passionate about the needs of the people. A government that is people needs driven. It's a present mantra.
All right, I would like to leave you just briefly, Lawrence. I want to go to Chidi. I mean, I want to believe that Chidi, to a very large extent, Lawrence has responded to you. But if you have reservations, fine. But I want to ask you also, from your security perspective, do you think that the citizens also, have a part to play in this? Now, he made some points saying that, for instance, thugs are, hired. Some of them are given drugs to disrupt the process and all of that. Some of them are given ammunition and all of that. And I mean, if you look at it closely too, during the elections, you hardly see men, particularly those at the polling stations. They don't carry arms, right? So would you also want to entirely blame the police for, let's say, some level of, will I call it a crisis or riot that happens, or ballot snatching that happens, during the election, and say, okay, it's because of the inability or ineffectiveness of police officers there. Hence, maybe they are even accomplice to what happened there.
Let me tell you something. I listened to Mr. Alobi, and I think he's talking about the ideal situation. If everybody plays by the rule, if all the politicians are saints who don't procure thugs, who obey law and order, then there will be no need for police in the first place. But it is because we know the nature of our elections, we know the nature of our politics, we know the kind of violence that we see in our elections. That was why the law, the Constitution designed police. The police is called law enforcement agency. They are there to enforce the laws, the electoral laws, civil laws and stuff. So, the point I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to say that the citizens, the people, have no role to play in terms of the fact that they should be able to conduct themselves peacefully. But I'm saying that knowing exactly the kind of elections we conduct here in this climate, knowing how desperate our politicians are, knowing how devious they could be, knowing the fact that you do not expect them to be angels. They've never been anywhere in any part of the world. So that is why you have the police. And our constitution says the police is the lead agency in election security. So all I'm just saying is that the police must be above board. The police must be on top of the situation. Do you know how much the federal government has voted for them to prepare them for this exercise? The other time you read that they are going to deploy 10,000 in each of the states, 10,000 policemen. Do you know how much that will cost the taxpayers? Do you know the number of tanks and tankers and logistic support that they deployed to enable them to perform their duties? So why are we not shifting this responsibility to the people? The people are expected to play by the rules. But what happens when they're not playing by the rules? Who will be there to put them online, to guide them to obey the laws? Why do we have law enforcement agencies? Why is the police the law enforcement agency? That's the point I'm trying to raise. So this, let me say it again, that this particular off-cycle election is more like a referendum on the capability, on the integrity, on the professionalism of the Nigerian police, especially under this current IG. He must be able to come out, unscathed. He must be able to come out, with thumbs up. So Nigeria will say, yes, now we have an IG who is able to control just 3 states. We're talking about 3 states, for goodness sake, not 36 states. So expect the police, and good enough, police not working alone. Police are going to have the DSS that work with them. They're going to have the civil defense that work with them. They're going to have the military that work with them. But they are the lead agency. But police have they have nothing to tell us in this election. Anywhere that there's a breakdown of law and order, the police must be held responsible. Let me tell you what happened. Remember what happened during the last presidential election? Did you see somewhere in Lagos where the police would stand at hands akimbo and talks running riot? Is that what you want to see again in these 3 states? So you're telling me that the policemen, deployed to watch the election, stand hands akimbo, watch talks, cutting away the ballot boxes and do nothing? Yet you have the police. And you claim that you deployed thousands of policemen. So that's what I'm saying. If we are talking about the role of the police on this election, we must tell them we must define their roles. Their role is to ensure that the law is enforced. The law is that the election must be peaceful, must be fair, must be transparent, must be accountable. So if any of these items are missing, we hold the police responsible because they're there to enforce the law. INEC are not there to enforce the law. It is the police because they are called law enforcement agency. That's what I'm trying to raise. I'm not saying that Nigerians don't have a role to play. Of course, everybody.
I'm sorry, Chidi, but I need to. Okay, I'm sorry, Chidi, but I need to come in here because we need to actually go on a break at this time, and of course to simmer things down. When we return, of course, we'll be looking at the level of preparedness of the security agencies, particularly in the states that will be taking part in the off-cycle elections in Nigeria. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. This is still Secure the Continent on New Central Television. And of course, we are discussing the level of security across states that will be having the off-cycle elections in Nigeria, particularly Imo, Bayelsa, and of course, Kogi State. And on the show, I still have with me Lawrence Alobi, retired former Commissioner of Police, Abuja. And of course, Chidi Omeje, security expert, also joining in from Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
All right, now let's talk about the level of preparedness of security personnel in these states that will partake in the off-cycle elections. Now, we know that a lot of men in uniform have been deployed to these states. I mean, prior to that, we saw in Imo State where there was a redeployment of the CP, following the face-off or the attack that happened to the labor leader, and one of their requests was a change of CP. And also we are hearing also in Bayelsa State that there's some sort of request also for a change, of the Commissioner of Police there. Now, I would like to start off with you, Mr. Alobi. How would you rate the current security preparedness in this particular states, having the off-cycle elections, knowing fully well that some of those states have a history of, what I call it, political violence, particularly when it comes to times like this?
Election in this country, police are not. They are used to elections. They're conducting elections. Throughout elections, since the democracy in 1999, the police have always taken part in all elections, and they will be the lead agency. And we police keep intelligence report in each state. And this state, they analyze each election after each election. Apart from elections, the police and other security agencies, like I said, keep intelligence on each state, even political parties and political actors. So the police and several security agencies, this is not new. They're not strangers in the field, anything about election security. And like I said earlier, before now, the police and security agencies have been having constant consultation, planning together, training together, working together, and identify the flashpoint and the fight flashpoint. And when they identify flashpoint, they take necessary action to ensure such areas are being focused, such areas are being monitored, and the adequate security is being provided. Like the IG has said, the police are normally neutral. The point is that most Nigerian politicians are not sincere to themselves. They want to grab power by hook or by crook. If they want to know that they should be patriotic in the sense that they show that the law is meant to be obeyed. If the politician, political party members, political leaders go by the rules in line with the Electoral Act, and if any officials do their game in line with the Electoral Act, and the police, like I said, what they call rules of engagement. And rules of engagement, it also guides us agencies to deploy for election duty, not only the police. There's always a collaborative effort between the police and security agencies. They train together on election security management, and they've been consulting together. And I'm sure by now, I can assure that all security agencies, including the police, are ready for this election come tomorrow, come 11 November 2023. And I can assure at the end, Nigerians will be proud to say they have a police force that they can be proud of. You see, the point is that if Nigeria should have, after the shores of this country, Nigerian police has always excelled. But here, because the environment itself is toxic, rather than appreciating and supporting the police, assisting the police, they always believe in condemning the police. If we play our role, we have a responsibility. Life is all, we should all be responsible for our action.
I'm sorry to interject here, but you used the word, you said that the environment is toxic. Hence, sometimes it appears like the police are underappreciated. But wouldn't you also want to say that sometimes it's a give and take situation where, as a result of what some people have experienced, the unjust treatment some citizens have experienced in the hands of some of these officers, hence people feel that, you see this trust vacuum. There are cases where some people rather, take laws into their own hands than even report to police officers because they feel that they will not be fairly treated or even get justice in any way. I mean, so there's this trust vacuum. Why is that?
You see, the trust vacuum has a historical foundation. Like I told you, if you look at the history from colonial era when the Nigerian police was established as a mother force, and when we have the military, during the colonial era, The colonial master was concerned about what gain can he make and exploit the country, and the military police was used to ensure that only the colonial interests were being protected. And even the military came on board to do by rules of the game. Even in the colonial era, the police, there was an abuse of human rights, and the military also came by decree, ruled by decree, and our cultural institutions were dismantled, and now the police have been having reorientation. I've been involved in training of the police, democratic policing, and ensuring that police imbibe democratic norms and values. And this should permit all security agencies. And I can assure you that at the end of this election, the Nigerian will applaud the police effort and the security agencies. The point is that each person has a role to do, a duty to perform. What can I do? Each Nigerian should ask himself, what can I do to contribute towards the peaceful and safety of this country? Each of the 3 states, all the citizens of those 3 states should know that they are obligated to ensure that, like Section 24 here, the Constitution provide that it's constantly to every Nigerian citizen to assist security agencies in law and order. They can do that by that assistance come by day, obeying the law, playing by the game, both the police and playing by the rules of the game. That they can assist, you know. So, but then people don't bother. What the prime beneficiary of a secure environment? The citizens. So if the citizens' life is based on principle of reciprocity, and if the citizens obey the law and comply with the rules of the game, the police will be there to ensure that there will be no threat to peace and security.
All right.
And election will be credible and full.
Okay, I would like to go to Chidi. I would like to go to Chidi right now. Sorry to okay.
The electorate, the politicians, INEC, the police, and all the security agents that are involved.
All right.
It's the responsibility of all of us.
All right, I'll come back to you, Lawrence, but let me go to Chidi right now. Now, Chidi, what's your take concerning the level of preparedness of security, agencies in this state? We know that the federal government, of course, has deployed over 200, officers, if not more than, way more than that, across the polling states, in the conduct of these off-cycle elections. Now, would you say that in terms of preparedness and also some of the, will I say, changes that has happened within the security architecture in some of this state, particularly Imo State, how will you rate their level of preparedness on ground?
Look, the problem is not the level of preparedness. The problem is the actual execution of police duties during, or rather before, during, and after the elections. You see, Mr. Alobi have told us, I'm happy that you have been able to arouse the sentiment of the people. People should be able to know that they have a role to play. But I am here this time to tell you that for tomorrow in Kogi, in Benue, in Bayelsa and Imo State, that Nigerians expect the law enforcement agencies of this country, led by the Nigerian police, that was supposed to be the lead agency in election security, to be able to rein in on those people who are, out to truncate the smooth process of the election. That is why they are called law enforcement agencies. So they must enforce the law. Now, talking about the level of preparedness, I may not know, apart from what they have told us. They said they've deployed over 40,000 policemen across these 3 states. 40,000 policemen. Know what that means? Talking about 40,000 men on ground. That's what for Nigeria police. You expect the other day, the chief of defense staff said that the military will be very supportive, that they're going to, in fact, they're even warning people who are out to cause trouble to stay away. So we're going to have the complement of the Nigerian military, complement of the DSS, the secret police, complement of the civil defense, then of course the people. So we expect to have, a transparent election tomorrow. We expect to have a peaceful, fair election tomorrow because the police have been given all that they want to prepare themselves. The federal government have appropriated enough money to make sure that all their logistics needs pay their allowances. So it's up to them to pay them. If they don't pay them, they decide to appropriate those monies. That is okay. We've heard it happened in the past. I know last time a particular.
Specific, Chidi. Sorry, Chidi, yeah. Are there specific security concerns that you feel that, should be addressed by the
Yes,
security
yes.
agency? Specifically,
Yes.
please.
Specifically is the issue of manning the election area, I mean the polling areas, to make sure that there are no talks cutting away the polling boxes. Then of course they want to make sure that there are no political talks, chasing people away, make sure that people don't vote, or make sure that police, because remember what INEC said, the kind of mistake they made, they said they're not going to count any, they're not going to count any count result of anywhere there's violence. So that means that they are telling this violent politicians that they are going to cause problem in areas they know there's a strong point of the opponents. So these are the red flags. So the police should be able to make sure that in each of these polling zones, that they have enough men on ground to ensure that these things are prevented. So I'm worried because I'm talking from the hindsight. We know what happened just in February. We saw what happened in Lagos. People were stopped from voting. We saw what happened in some places where we saw some voters stabbed in their faces. Meanwhile, police are standing there watching them. So I'm saying that the police should play their role. This is not a question of abdicating their role to the people. Yes, people must be civil. They must play their role. But the police is the law enforcement agency. There's no preaching that will change that reality, that fact. Police must make sure that they enforce electoral laws. They make sure that there's no breakdown of law and order in election places tomorrow. That's just what I'm saying. So there's no point telling me about how the citizens must comport themselves. Because we know that Nigerian politicians are very devious. They can be very desperate. They can employ violence to win elections. That's why we have the police there.
All right, Chidi, I'm sorry, Chidi, but I need to come in here. You talked about sometimes police standing at akimbo when things just unfold at polling stations. We also know that
Yes.
Policemen don't carry sophisticated weapons, particularly at voting centers. At some point in history became an issue, and that's why that particular, clause was revealed. And also for the sake of not creating panic. Now imagine coming to a polling center, for instance, and you see about 10 or 5 heavily armed policemen. Sometimes it might create tension for people that, is anything about to happen? So I don't know, how do you strike a balance with this?
It will not create any tension. It rather give people sense of security, because then people know that election polling areas have always turned to war zones. So if they see policemen, in fact, it's not because the law says the military will be in the outer periphery. Otherwise, I would have even preferred the military to be close, because that's where the election riggers carry their duties. That's where the violent politicians execute their plans. So the police must be able to have some level of arms and ammunition to protect this. They can't stand there with baton and then you expect them to happen. But our Nigerian politicians already know this. There is this vacuum. So I expect the police to have done their assessment to say, look, time have come for us to, weaponize our policemen around there, because they should be able to enforce the law. They can't enforce the law with their bare hands. I don't believe in that, because already we see that Nigerian, electoral, polling booths are war zones. So what do you do in the war zones? You fight, you prepare yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry, I might just need to maybe correct that a bit. I don't think election season is a war zone. So maybe.
We can't deny the fact.
I'm sorry, but maybe war. The word war might just be a bit too of course, extreme. But I would like to leave you briefly, Chidi. Let's go to Lawrence right now and, of course, see his reaction to some of the things you have said briefly, particularly when it comes to policemen not really being, heavily armed at polling booths. I mean, does it in any way aid the effectiveness of policing at polling centers?
Yeah, you see, in election security, there are various strategies that are done and mechanisms that we apply, which what they call levels of access control. That for the fact that the most important thing why policemen who are the inner, where you have the polling booths are not armed, is to give the electorate that sense. Yes, they have nothing like intimidation. Nothing that is, like you said, we're not fighting war. It's a peaceful environment that is conducive. And the various levels of access, we have what they call outer, outer, inner, inner. That is, those who are at the periphery, the outer, the other levels of outer level, onto the inner, inner, which is now the police stations. Those the outer areas of the periphery, they are all armed. And that the access control, that is, before you get to the polling booth, you must have gone through all these levels of asset control. And that doesn't mean that for the fact that the people at the police station are not armed doesn't mean that the election security, there's not enough security around the vicinity of the election venue. The election security is very, very important. And the IG and other security chiefs, they know how important it is to our democracy. I know why they need that. They are obligated to ensure that elections are peaceful. The security agencies, the police and military and other security agencies, they have made plans. I can assure you that they are working together and they will deliver in line with Mr. President's mantra of renewed hope. The hope of the citizens will be renewed. With the effort of the Nigerian police and other security agencies, I can assure you that we're going to have a very credible election come tomorrow. But the point is, like I said, it is a collective effort of both the citizens and security agencies. Security agencies are not the one. The police don't vote. Security agencies don't vote, but they are only there to provide the enabling environment for other people to vote. So it is therefore incumbent on the citizens, the electorate, the politicians, the INEC, to ensure that they perform the functions in line with the rules of their mandate. Okay. Police Act provides the function of the police, prevention of crime, prevention. So the problem of
I'm sorry, we need to go.
Prevent crime.
I'm sorry, we need to go. I'm so sorry, we need to go. Lawrence Alobi, thank you so much, but we need to go. We're pressed with time. Gentlemen, thank you so much for making our time to be on the program today. Lawrence Alobi, retired former Commissioner of Police, Abuja, and also Chidi Omeje, security expert, also from Abuja, Nigeria. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, great. Now, as we wrap up the show, now, elections are actually an integral part of democracy and, of course, the core of the functionality of security of lives and property is pivotal to its growth and also prosperity. Now, Nigeria needs to ensure it sets the right precedents, particularly in this direction as a leader of the continent. Well, that's a wrap on the show today. My name is Dapo Adegboye. See you next time. Bye for now.